right, everybody, we're getting into goodness today. We're coming into our fruit number 6, and it's all about goodness. And we're going to take a little bit of a turn with the understanding today. But firstly, we're going to get into what does the word goodness mean. In the Strong's Hebrew lexicon, the word goodness means, firstly, number 36, the father of goodness. That's an example of good. A tibub, abitub, a Yisraelite abitub. It means affection. Goodness means affection. It can be in a good or a bad sense. Affection, love, or to be a lover. Affection is to be good. To weigh with scales as if 2 ears. Figuratively, pondering right or wrong. Give good heed. That's what good means as well. Amatz, to be alert. Physically, on foot, or mentally. Encourage. Confirm. Be courageous, of good courage, steadfastly minded, strong, stronger, establish, fortify, harden, increase, prevail, strengthen yourself, make strong, obstinate, or speed. So we're getting deeper now into what goodness means, to have this goodness. Besora, we know this word. The Besora is glad tidings, the reward for good news, or the reward for tidings. Goodness is wrapped up in this word too. Good news, often it's meant. Basar, to be fresh, full, rosy, cheerful, to announce the glad news. To be a messenger, preach, publish, show forth, bear, bring, carry, preach, good, tell good tidings. Take this all in, guys. This is what being good and having his goodness is all about. To be or to make good or well in the widest sense available, it means good. To be, do better. This is the same word good that we dealt with yesterday when we were talking about kindness. Yahusha said, it is good. Cheer, be, do, seem, good, make, goodly, to, please, be, do, go, play, well. Beautiful, best, better, bountiful, cheerful, at ease, fair word, be in favour, fine, glad, good deeds, graciously, joyful, kindly, kindness, loving, merry, most, pleasant, pleasure, precious, prosperity, ready, sweet, wealth, welfare, to be well favoured, interesting, goodness, superlative, concretely the best. So the goodness is the best. It's beauty, gladness, welfare, fair, gladness, good things, joy, go well with. All goodness. The goodness of Yahuah, Tobiah, the name of 3 Israelites and of 1 Samaritan, Tobiah. Ya'al, to ascend. Here we go. Now it means to ascend. If you're having his goodness come through, it means to ascend, to be valuable, useful, benefited. Do you want to be useful and be a benefit to Yahusha? Do you want to be valuable to him? You've got to have this goodness. Set forward, can do good, be, have, and profitable. Now we come into the kabod or the kabod. Weight in a good sense. Splendor of copiousness. Gloriously, glory, esteem, honorable. That was the esteem, they used to call it. Glory, esteem, that weight that was there when the ark, when the presence, when the smoke, when the fire, when Yahusha arrived in place. That's what they felt. That's what they were covered with in the garden. It's just his light, his kabod. It's a weight, his presence. All part of goodness. To be firm, vigor. Literally, force in a good or bad sense, or figuratively, capacity, which means to produce. Also from its hardiness, a large lizard. Ability, able, chameleon. Force, fruits, might, powerful, strength, substance, or wealth. And dealing with offerings and sacrifices and everything, dealing with the fatness of the loin as the seat of the leaf fat, or generally the viscera, also silliness or trust. Confidence, flank, hope, the loin. Success, advantage, equity, good, right. To be enclosed. We all understand that if you've entered into a cocoon. To be enclosed, trapped, cornered, beaten up. To be enclosed as if with fat. To unheart. In a good sense, transport with love. To make love cakes. Make cakes, ravish, be wise. A whisper, by implication in a good sense, a private prayer. Or in a bad sense, it's an incantation or an amulet, charmed, earring, enchantment, or an orator. So we see it's about whispering. Communication as well comes into it. To be enclosed in your cocoon, to be whispering or praying or communicating. To be firm, to have his presence, to be ascending into high places, to have the goodness. You see where it's all heading? Let's tie this in with some scriptural understanding. Of course, we know the first few chapters of Genesis. Yahusha was constantly saying, it is good. He created this and it was good. He created that and it was good. And then later on, when after Adam and Eve sinned, it says mankind is now like Elohim, knowing good and evil. So they understood the difference between good and evil. Genesis 33, and he said, I shall cause all my goodness to pass before you. This was Moses up the mountain. You want to see his face. You want to meet this amazing being. Yahuah said, I shall cause all my goodness to pass before you, and I shall proclaim the name of Yahuah before you. And I shall favour him whom I favour, and I shall have compassion on him whom I have compassion. I'll do what I want, in other words. But he said, you are unable to see my face, for no man does see me and live. That's why he had to transform into Yahusha, so that mankind could see him. But what about this? What about the fact that he describes it as his goodness? He could have said, oh, I will put my presence before you. He said his goodness. That's the word that was chosen. I will cause all my goodness to pass before you. 1 Kings 8, on the 8th day he sent the people away, and they blessed the sovereign and went to their tents rejoicing and glad of heart for all the goodness that Yahuah had done for his servant David and for Israel his people. They knew in their hearts that it was because of his goodness. Isaiah 63, let me recount the kindnesses of Yahuah and the praises of Yahuah, according to all that Yahuah has done for us and the great goodness towards the house of Israel, which he has done for them according to his compassion and according to his many kindnesses. See how all the fruits are entwined? We've got compassion, kindness, goodness. It's all happening here. Kindness and goodness towards the house. The house. Jeremiah, then I brought you into a garden land to eat its fruit and its goodness. But when you entered, you defiled my land and made my inheritance an abomination. The priests did not say, where is Yahuah? And those who handled the Torah did not even know me, and the shepherds transgressed against me, and the prophets prophesied by Baal, and walked after things that did not profit. Therefore I still contend with you, declares Yahuah, and with your children's children I still contend. For of old you have broken your yoke and tore of your bonds, and you said, I am not serving you, when on every high hill and under every green tree you lay down a whore. So they're talking about all the idolatry that Israel did in Yahuah's face. He brought them into a wonderful time, place, situation, promised land, and they just whored against him non-stop. Still keeping the context of goodness here in our minds, all right? Is this goodness, what Israel's done? Is this goodness? We're seeing what he considers to be goodness, and the opposite, what he considers whoredom and idolatry. Even though it says at the beginning, I brought you in to eat and experience and partake of all my goodness. Jeremiah 31, for I shall be a father to Israel, and Ephraim, he's my firstborn. Hear the word of Yahuah, O Gentiles, and declare it in the isles afar off, and say, he who has scattered Israel gathers him, and shall guard him as a shepherd his flock. For Yahuah shall ransom Jacob, and redeem him from the hand of one stranger than he. And they shall come in and shall sing on the height of Zion, and streamed to the goodness of Yahuah, for grain and for new wine and for oil and for the young of the flock and the herd, and their being shall be like a well-watered garden and never languish again. Then shall a maiden rejoice in a dance, young men and old together, and I shall turn their mourning to joy, and shall comfort them, and shall make them rejoice from their sorrow, and shall fill the being of the priests with fatness, and my people shall be satisfied with my goodness, declares Yahuah. If you're reading this ink on the page here, text on the screen here, just thinking it's all happening and it's all natural and this is what's coming, this is the restoration that's coming, you are gravely mistaken. This restoration has happened, almost completed, in fact. It's happening in Yahusha's bride right now. The two sticks are coming back together. Any tribe, kindred, tongue, nation is welcome to come in, but they've got to go through and understand that Yahusha is Elohim. This transformation, this restoration that you read here and in all the prophets is happening now. So if you're waiting for natural tribes and natural Yisrael and the Middle East and all that madness to come together and form some kind of unity and peace, you're crazy. It's happening under our noses. His reign is not of this world. Psalm 21, the sovereign rejoices in your strength, O Yahuah, and how greatly he exalts in your deliverance. You have given him the desire of his heart, and you have not withheld the request of his lips, Selah. For you put before him the blessings of goodness. You set a crown of fine gold on his head. He asked life from you, and you gave it to him. Length of days forever and ever. Blessings of goodness. Psalm 65, blessed is the one you choose, and bring near to dwell in your courts. We are satisfied with the goodness of your house, your set-apart temple. Satisfied with the goodness of your house. We are to be satisfied with his goodness. And now arise, Yahuah Elohim, to your resting place. Where's the resting place today? You and the ark of your strength. Where's the ark today? Let your priests, who's the priest today? Let your priest, Yahuah Elohim, be robed with deliverance, and let your kind ones rejoice in goodness. Who's supposed to be the kind ones? Who's supposed to be rejoicing? Who's supposed to have goodness? Yahuah Elohim, do not turn away the face of your anointed, but remember the kind acts of your servant David, who fulfilled everything David was set up to symbolize, Yahusha, and now his bride. Who's supposed to be the anointed ones? 2 Chronicles 8, the 23rd day of the 7th month, he sent the people away to their tents, rejoicing and glad of heart for the goodness that Yahuah had done for David, here's David again, and for Solomon, and for his people, Yisrael. Thus Solomon finished the house of Yahuah and the sovereign's house, and all that came into the heart of Solomon to do in the house of Yahuah, and in his own house he prosperously executed. The plan was given to David, the blueprints, whatnot, all of it. He prepared it, did everything but physically build it, and Solomon came forward and built it. And the presence, that kabod we talked about, the glory, the esteem came down, the fire hit that altar, the divine fire from another dimension hit it. That's why that fire had to be used for everything in the temple. It wasn't natural fire. What happened to the guys in Moses' tabernacle that used natural fire and buggered around with the incense? Struck dead. Romans 15, let's go into some newer scriptures. And the Elohim of expectation fill you with all joy and peace in believing, that you overflow with expectation by the power of the set-apart Spirit. Now I myself am persuaded concerning you, my brothers, that you too are filled with goodness, complete in all knowledge, able also to admonish one another. But I have written more boldly to you, in part as reminding you, because of the favor given to me by Elohim, to be a servant of Yahushua Messiah to the nations, with the priestly duty of bringing the good news of Elohim. Remember all the Hebrew words we looked up? Priestly duty, the good news, the Besorah. He's charging them to do this. Bring the good news of Elohim so that the offering of the nations becomes acceptable, set apart by the set-apart Spirit. Therefore I have cause for boasting in Yahushua Messiah in the things pertaining to Elohim. So We're seeing here what Paul considers good, goodly, goodness in behaviour, to be putting your mind on these sort of things, priestly duties, how to get together the good news and how to deliver it, all these sort of things. Galatians 5, this is our mantra here almost. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness we're talking about today. Goodness. Trustworthiness comes next, or faithfulness, gentleness and self-control. Against such there is no Torah. Those who are of Messiah have impaled the flesh with its passions and the desires. This is what's considered good behaviour, goodness. If we live in the Spirit, let us also walk in the Spirit. Let us not become conceited, provoking one another and envying one another. Seeing again what good and goodness is if it's in us. Ephesians 5, Paul says, "For you were once darkness, but now you are light in the Master. So walk as children of light. For the fruit of the Spirit is in all goodness and righteousness." So it's the fruits of goodness that we're studying in this series, the fruits of righteousness and the fruits of truth. Fruits of the Spirit is in all goodness, righteousness and truth, proving what is well pleasing to the Master. And have no fellowship with the fruitless works of darkness, but rather expose them. For it is a shame even to speak of what is done by them in secret. Don't even want to speak about it, so you certainly don't want to be watching or partaking or involving your heart, being, emotions, passions into such things. Otherwise you won't have this goodness. You won't be good. 2 Thessalonians 1, "To this end we always pray for you, that our Elohim would count you worthy of this calling and complete all the good pleasure of goodness and the work of belief with power, so that the name of our Master Yahushua Messiah is esteemed in you and you in him, according to the favour of our Elohim and the Master Yahushua Messiah. Beloved ones, do not imitate the evil, but the good." Don't imitate the evil. We're surrounded by evil. Don't imitate it. Don't model your behaviour after it, but the good. The one who is doing good is of Elohim, but he who is doing evil has not seen Elohim, because anybody who sees Elohim, anyone who meets and has an encounter with Yahusha, is forever changed. So there's some scriptures, and when we go through the scriptures, you feel good. If you've been in religious movements and you've been forced to read scriptures, then you've been forced to read scriptures. You've had it pounded into you. You've had to memorize things. Fine. Good things can come out of that too. But when you're set free and you're in the wilderness, you're transitioned, and you don't have to do anything, and you choose not to do anything, if you start feeling like you're not very full, happy, motivated, when you read his living words, you feel good. It's his goodness coming towards you. It's his light. It's his presence. It's living. His word is living. And you feel good. It's not a very creative adjective, but it's good enough for him in creation. And I've never seen anything as good as his creation. So let's use that word. Let's summarize. So here in our sixth fruit, goodness, we have the linchpin that holds our whole temple together. Linchpin is the spoke, the axle that holds the wheels together. It's the foundation that holds this whole thing together. Of all the fruits we're studying, goodness is the linchpin that holds our whole temple together. Because up until now, the fruits are something that must be grown, that must grow within us from Yahusha, and then spread to others. We understand that? All the fruits, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, they've all got to, we start from nothing. We come in broken. We don't have much of any of it. And it grows within us. It's our relationship with Yahusha, and then it spreads to others. However, goodness is not something we just do. Get up today and I'm going to do goodness to people. I'm just going to do good. How do you do goodness? Goodness is not something you do. It's something that we are. Something you can feel. I feel goodness. It's something that you are. And as the other fruits, it cannot be faked or pretended. It is an overflow of our set apartness, cleanliness, and uprightness with Yahusha. or maybe it's a lack of. If you're not feeling goodness and you're not feeling good, it's a lack of set apartness, a lack of cleanliness, and the lack of uprightness, no righteousness if you're not feeling it. It is the love of Yahusha's word and our study and discovery throughout its entire content that teaches us who Elohim is and what he considers good and evil, clean and unclean, or abominable. Different movements like to put the magnifying glass on certain parts of the scripture and say, that's what you got to lift up, that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do here, that's what you got to do there. I'm just here to tell you, you got to read the whole book from cover to cover to understand through every law, practice, prophet, teaching, illustration, character, man, woman, child, everything you've got to understand. It's to teach us what good and evil is, to teach us what clean and unclean is, or what he considers abominable. Because when Yahusha comes along and says, a new command I give to you, love one another as I have loved you, love your neighbor as yourself, you will love Yahuah, your Elohim, with all your heart, mind, body, strength. He's talking to people that were ingrained with 4,000 odd years written down of scripture, Torah, prophets. They knew what Elohim considered good and evil. He didn't have to spell that out to them. He just had to bring the love, because none of this before, they weren't doing the love. The love had been taken out of it, and it had become a written, dead Torah of sin and death. So he came to bring the love. So if you're coming into Yahusha and you don't know what he considers good or bad, you got to read it from cover to cover. Good, to know what good and evil is, clean and unclean, or abominable. So this goodness is not something you can just wake up today and say, I'm going to be good. I'm going to exude goodness. You can't do that. It has to be something that you grow in. And it comes as let's go on, you'll find out how. So by choosing through each right thought, this is how you do it. By choosing through each right thought to become good, which is only achievable by hearing and doing. We are growing up more and more into the head, who sits on the throne of heaven, master and Elohim of a completed work that began at creation, when he considered the work of his hands good. So many people think they're already good. Every slather of religious movement, you'll have people say, I'm a good person. I'm a good person. I do good things. I do good things. I am good. And by all religious, earthly, societal, fleshly standards, you may very well be a good person. But his reign is not of this world. His fruit is not of this world. His love, joy, peace, patience, kindness is not of this world, and neither is the goodness. So you can't do anything good but by him. So how do I become good then? By each thought that you choose to let in and believe. So that's where you start. And by choosing it day after day after day, you eventually become an overcomer. Not one who's overcoming, you become one who has overcome, and you feel the favor of an overcomer. And you become good, and the goodness is in you. When we enter our cocoons in the wilderness and start overcoming the flesh to put on his goodness, we are actually tapping into him, transforming and partaking of an eternal existence that's not available outside of his transition as Elohim. You can't have this goodness in you. Can't have it. It's not something you do, feel. It's something that you become, the goodness. Because goodness is righteousness, which never works of ourself. Self-righteousness goes nowhere. Goodness is righteousness, which never works of ourself, but only by following his divine royal laws of love through the powerful eternal blood of his new covenant on our hearts. If we are right and acceptable before him in our daily behavior, then his goodness overflows, making us stronger, willing and ready, full of his love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, willing and ready to be his living dwellings and the only witnesses of his miraculous wonders on this earth, tapping into his goodness. Isn't that what Moses experienced? Yahuah said, I will pass by you. My goodness will pass by you. Not the back of my head. not my presence, not my this, my goodness will pass by you. So when we are being obedient, we are tapping into something that's not of this world. We have a portal on our hearts and we are tapping into his goodness. So this is kind of the vehicle so far, and we haven't done the last 3 fruits yet, but this is the vehicle that drives the love, joy, peace, patience, kindness. This goodness is something that you become. And here's how you do it. Until our temples are clean and we are ready and practiced in goodness, we will not be released from the enclosure of our chrysalis. One of the Hebrew words up there said, we are hemmed in, wrapped tightly, something like that. Our temples, until our temples are clean and we are ready and practiced in goodness, we will not be released from the enclosure of our chrysalis, or permitted to leave as anointed new creations, fresh, rosy and cheerful, to announce the good news of deliverance for others. And ready to ascend, we won't be ready to ascend to meet our bridegroom at his arrival until we put on this goodness. How do you put it on? You can't just appear shining out of your chrysalis good, exuding goodness. You have to do the work. You have to overcome. You have to die to the flesh. You have to consider the fruits that come before the love, the royal laws of love, loving Elohim no matter what. Read his word if you don't know what makes him happy and what makes him angry, what he considers good and evil is. Loving Yahuah first and foremost, Yahusha, our Elohim, loving him foremost, and then loving your neighbor as yourself, everyone around you. And you know if you're not doing it because you don't feel no joy, or you do feel joy. Joy is owned by Yahusha as well. It springs up like rivers of living water. It's joy. It's wonderful. And peace is the quiet stillness. You can sleep at night. You can operate. You can sit quietly by yourself or be with others, and you are content, happy. You have that overall arcing peace, shalom, within you. And you are patient. You're willing to be patient and suffer other people or situations you're in because you don't want to lose the love, joy, or peace. So you're willing to be patient and kind, which we did yesterday. Kind. You're willing to put on the kindness because overall it produces goodness, and goodness is the presence of Yahusha within, and that's how it feels. It's just good. It just is. I come and go as I please. I do what I want. I'm this to someone else and I'm that to someone else. I can change. I can transform. I can be a father to you, a son to someone else, a spirit to someone else. I can be a sheep, a dog. I can talk through a donkey. I can be a bush. I can be a smoke pillar. I can be a flaming fire. I can do whatever the hell I want. I am. And Yahusha is our Elohim, and he is good. And that's who we're copying. Love you guys.